The European people are currently facing a new economic reality, one that they have not experienced in decades. They are becoming poorer. Life on a continent renowned for its rich and admirable art of living is gradually losing its splendor as the purchasing power of its citizens is slowly diminishing. Why is Europe experiencing this gradual impoverishment? What concrete evidence is indicating that the continent is facing an extremely bleak economic outlook? Let's explore these questions in today's World Affairs. According to a recent article published in the Wall Street Journal, across Europe, the French are no longer consuming as much foie gras and red wine as before. Spaniards are gradually saving olive oil. Throughout Germany, meat and milk consumption have reached their lowest levels in 3 decades, and the once booming organic food market has plummeted. Italy's Minister of Economic Development, Adolfo Urso, called for an emergency meeting in May when pasta, Italy's favorite staple, doubled in price compared to the national inflation rate. With consumer spending plummeting, Europe fell into a recession earlier this year, exacerbating the economic, political, and military decline it has been experiencing since the beginning of this century. The current difficulties in Europe have been building up for a long time. An aging population and a growing preference for leisure over high-income jobs have led to subdued economic growth and productivity. Then came 2 heavy blows, the COVID-19 pandemic and the prolonged conflict between Russia and Ukraine. With the global supply chain disrupted and energy and food prices soaring, these crises have exacerbated the long-standing ailments that have plagued Europe for decades. As per Wall Street Journal, the reactions of European governments have only complicated the issues further. To maintain employment, they direct their subsidies towards employers, leaving consumers without enough money to cope with price shocks. In contrast, Americans benefit from cheap energy and government aid, which is primarily directed at individuals to sustain their spending. In the past, Europe's formidable export sector might have been able to rescue the continent. However, the slow recovery in China, a significant market for Europe, is undermining that pillar of growth. High energy costs and rampant inflation, not seen since the 1970s, are eroding the price advantage of international market producers and disrupting the continent's once harmonious labor relations. As global trade cools down, Europe's heavy dependence on exports, which constitute about 50% of its GDP, is becoming a vulnerability. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, a group of wealthy countries based in Paris, personal consumption has decreased by around 1% in the 20 Eurozone countries since late 2019, adjusted for inflation. In the United States, strong labor markets and rising incomes for households have led to an increase of nearly 9% in this ratio. Currently, the European Union accounts for approximately 18% of total global consuming spending, while the United States contributes 28%. 15 years ago, both the EU and the US each represented about 1/4 of that total. According to the OECD data, when adjusted for inflation and purchasing power, in Germany, wages have decreased by approximately 3% since 2019, 3.5% in Italy and Spain, and 6% in Greece. In contrast, real wages in the United States have increased by about 6% during the same period. The economic pain has spread even to the middle class. In Brussels, one of the wealthiest cities in Europe, teachers and nurses have had to queue up to receive discounted groceries. The task of providing these discounted food items is taken up by Happy Hours Market, a company that collects food nearing its expiration date from supermarkets and lists them on an app. Customers can place orders in the early afternoon and receive the discounted items in the evening. Similar services have emerged throughout the region. Too Good To Go, a company founded in Denmark in 2015, specializes in selling surplus food from retailers and restaurants. It has garnered 76 million registered users across Europe, nearly tripling the number recorded at the end of 2020. In Germany, Surplus, a startup founded in 2017, also deals in providing expired products. Potatoes, a company with a similar service, was established in Sweden in 2014 and is now present in Finland, Germany, Denmark, and the United Kingdom. Expenditure at upscale grocery stores has also decreased. At the beginning of 2022, Germans consumed 52 kilograms of meat per person, which is about 8% less than the previous year and the lowest level recorded since data was first collected in 1989. Some people argue that this indicates a growing societal concern about healthy eating and animal welfare. However, experts believe that this trend has been accelerated by the recent surge in meat prices, which have increased by up to 30% in recent months. According to the Federal Agricultural Information Center, Germans are also shifting towards consuming cheaper meats, such as poultry, instead of beef and veal. Thomas Wolf, an organic food supplier near Frankfurt, reported that his company's sales declined by up to 30% last year due to the increasing inflation. Weak consumer spending and lackluster demographic prospects are making Europe less attractive to businesses, from consumer giants like Procter & Gamble to luxury empires like LVMH. These companies are experiencing higher sales than ever in North America. According to Unilever's Chief Financial Officer, Graham Bickerley, American consumers are stronger than those in Europe. According to data from the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, measured in US dollars, the Eurozone's economy has grown by approximately 6% over the past 15 years, while the United States economy has grown by 82%. As per a report from the European Center for International Political Economy this month, this growth has resulted in the EU having a lower per capita income compared to all US states, except for Idaho and Mississippi. The report indicates that if the current trend continues, by 2035, the gap between the average per capita economic output in the US and the EU will be equivalent to the gap between Japan and Ecuador today. Currently, the US economy is approximately twice the size of the Euro area's economy. In 2008, the two economies had a relatively small difference in value. Mr. Maria Frontiera, the chairman of the Tourism Committee of the Mallorca Chamber of Commerce, stated that on the island of Mallorca in the Mediterranean, businesses are working to increase the number of flights to the United States to attract more American tourists. American tourists spend an average of about 260 euros, while European tourists spend around 180 euros. American tourists are spending more, whereas the purchasing power of Europeans is currently slowing down. Weak growth and rising interest rates are causing tension for countries with generous social welfare systems in Europe, including those providing healthcare services and suitable pension schemes. European governments are currently realizing that the old formulas to address the crisis are becoming unfeasible or have ceased to work. Cutting public spending after the global financial crisis has led to neglect of state-funded healthcare systems in Europe, particularly the National Health Service in the United Kingdom. Vivek Trivedi, a 31-year-old anesthesiologist living in Manchester, England, earns around £51,000 per year while working 48 hours per week. Trivedi mentioned that inflation at around 10% in the UK over the past year has consumed his monthly salary. He revealed that he chooses to shop at discount stores and dine out less. Hall Peel, the chief economist at the Bank of England, warned British citizens in April that they need to face the reality that we are all getting poorer and to stop calling for wage increases. He also asserted that raising wages to cope with the rising prices will only worsen inflation. Amid increasing defense spending and rising borrowing costs, economists believe that taxes will also have to rise, putting additional pressure on consumers. Taxes in Europe are already relatively high compared to other wealthy countries, accounting for about 40 to 45% of GDP, whereas in the US, taxes amount to around 27% of GDP. American workers take home nearly 3/4 of their wages after income and social security taxes, while workers in countries like France and Germany only keep about half of their wages. IG Metall, Germany's biggest trade union, is calling for a 4-day work week at current salary levels rather than a pay rise for the country's metal workers ahead of collective bargaining negotiations this November. Officials say the shorter week would improve workers' health and quality of life, while at the same time making the industry more attractive to younger workers. Almost half of employees in Germany's health industry choose to work around 30 hours per week rather than full-time, reflecting tough working conditions, said Frank Wernicke, chairman of the country's United Services Trade Union, which has added about 110,000 new members in recent months, the biggest increase in 22 years. The popularization of Europe has bolstered the ranks of labor unions, which are picking up tens of thousands of members across the continent, reversing a decades-long decline. And that has wrapped up our program today. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.